My husband cheated on me with his ex-fiancée. She was pregnant, and she didn't make it. My name's Emily Carter. I'm 33, and until last summer, I thought my life was a painting done in warm, golden hues. My husband, Jake Wells, a software engineer at a tech startup in Portland, Oregon, was my best friend, my rock. His brown eyes, always sparkling with a hint of mischief, his soft smile, and the way he'd hum Beatles tunes while brewing morning coffee made every day feel a little brighter. We'd been married 7 years, and despite the small cracks in our daily routine, I believed our marriage was a fortress nothing could tear down. Friends called us Emily and Jake, the rom-com couple. We dreamed of kids, a lake house, growing old on a porch swing, holding hands and laughing at old jokes. But one week in Florida, one phone and one text shattered my world, exposing secrets I couldn't have imagined. The idea for a vacation came from exhaustion, piling up like dust on forgotten books. My job at an ad agency in Portland was a relentless grind, clients demanding the impossible, deadlines frying my nerves, presentations rewritten until dawn. I loved my work, but it was draining me dry. Jake was just as consumed by his project, a startup app that promised to shake up the tech world. He'd come home late, eyes tired, but always managed to hug me and ask, "How was your day, Em?" Our conversations, though, were getting shorter, shallower, like we were playing parts in a play where we'd forgotten the lines. I felt us drifting apart like two ships sailing in opposite directions, and that scared me more than I wanted to admit. One night, eating takeout pizza on the couch, I couldn't hold it in. "We need a reset, Jake. We're losing each other," I said, looking at him over the pepperoni box. He set down his slice, gave me that heart-melting smile, and said, "Where to, Em?" "Name a place and I'm there." I thought for a second. Key West, Florida, popped into my head. A place we'd dreamed about back in college, lying on the grass under the stars, making plans. Key West, ocean, sunsets, just us, I said, and his eyes lit up. "Deal," he said. And for a moment, I believed we could reignite the spark that bound us 10 years ago. At a music festival in a park, when he spilled beer on me and apologized so earnestly I fell in love, we booked a beach cottage, small, with white walls, a wooden porch, and an ocean view. Planning the trip brought back our joy. We scrolled through excursion sites, debated a dolphin tour, laughed at the idea of renting a hot pink convertible. I felt like this was our chance to start fresh, to breathe life back into our marriage. Jake seemed just as excited, and I brushed off the faint unease I caught in his eyes sometimes. He'd pause, staring at his phone, but I told myself it was work, nothing more. We flew into Miami in early July. The airport buzzed like a beehive, but I was too happy to care about the crowd. We rented a convertible, not pink, but silver, and Jake teased that I looked like a movie star in it. The drive to Key West was straight out of a postcard, palm trees lining the highway, turquoise sea, warm breeze tangling my hair. Jake played our old playlist, Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Bob Dylan, songs from our early dates. We belted out Hotel California, laughing when we missed notes, holding hands. I glanced at his profile, his smile, and thought, "This is happiness." "This'll be our best vacation, Em," he said, squeezing my hand. And I nodded, my heart swelling. The cottage was even better than the pictures. Wooden floors creaked, windows framed the ocean, and a swing on the porch was perfect for morning coffee. Those first days were a dream. We snorkeled, watching colorful fish dart around, ate lobster at restaurants with sunset views, strolled Key West's streets, smelling salt, jasmine, and fresh pastries. Jake was the man I fell for, joking, snapping photos of me by the lighthouse, calling me his muse. One night on the beach, he wrapped his arms around me and said, "I'm so lucky you're mine." I leaned into his shoulder, breathing in his cologne, and thought everything would be okay. I didn't notice how his hand brushed his phone in his pocket, like he was checking it was still there. By the third day, though, I saw a change. Jake started checking his phone more. He'd angle it away so I couldn't see the screen, slipping it into his pocket when I got close. It was subtle, but I knew him too well. "Work?" I asked one night when a text came through during dinner at a waterfront restaurant. He flashed a tight smile. "Yeah, no big deal, Em. Don't worry about it." I nodded, but a knot formed in my chest, a tiny prick I couldn't ignore. I remembered my mom warning me, if a man starts hiding his phone, it's trouble. I pushed the thought away, not wanting to ruin the trip. On the fourth day, he got a call while we sipped cocktails on the porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky pink and gold, and I was giggling over his story about a crab nearly stealing my sandal. Jake stood, walked to the edge of the porch, and spoke low, almost a whisper. I couldn't hear the words, but his tone wasn't businesslike. It was soft, almost tender. When he came back, I asked, "Who was that?" He shrugged. "A co-worker about the project." "All sorted?" His eyes dodged mine, and the knot in my chest tightened. I told myself I was being paranoid, but doubt had already crept in. On the fifth day, everything fell apart. That morning, Jake said he needed to run to town, grab groceries, hit the gas station, answer an urgent work email. "I'll be quick, babe. Just chill," he said, kissing my forehead. His kiss felt rushed, and I noticed him pat his pocket like he was making sure his phone was there. But he messed up. He left it on the living room table, its black screen catching the sunlight. That was weird. Jake never forgot his phone. I stared at it, and something stirred inside me. Instinct? Curiosity? A gut feeling? I don't know. I picked it up, typed in the passcode, our wedding date, and opened his messages. There was a chat with Sarah M. My heart pounded as I saw hundreds of texts. "I miss you," she wrote. "When are you back in Portland?" Jake replied, "Soon, Sarah. Can't stop thinking about you." I scrolled up. The chat went back nearly a year. There were photos. Sarah, a stunning brunette with green eyes and a radiant smile, in a park, a coffee shop, even the bar in Portland, where Jake and I went for our anniversary. I recognized the table we sat at, and my stomach churned. There were voice messages, but I couldn't bring myself to play them. My hands shook, my throat closed up. I accidentally tapped one, and Sarah's voice, soft, slightly husky, said, "Jake, I can't do this without you. Please come." Her last text read, "Did you tell her?" "I'm tired of waiting, Jake." The world stopped. I sat there, staring at the screen, tears dripping onto the glass. Jake, my Jake, the man I trusted more than anyone, was cheating on me. Worse, I realized I didn't know him. Who was Sarah? What did she mean to him? What did she mean by, "Did you tell her?" I felt the ground slip away, like I was falling into a void. Memories flashed, his smile at our wedding, our nights under the stars, his promises. Was it all a lie? I thought of him proposing by a lake, down on one knee in the rain, vowing he'd never hurt me. How could I have been so blind? When Jake came back, I couldn't hold it in. He walked in with grocery bags, smiling, but his face fell when he saw the phone in my hands. "Who's Sarah?" I blurted, hurling the phone onto the couch. He went pale, his eyes darting. "Emily, it's not what you think," he started, but I cut him off. "Don't lie. I saw everything. Are you sleeping with her? How long has this been going on?" My voice cracked, tears streaming down my face. Jake tried to speak, but his words stumbled. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands, and muttered, "Please, let's talk calmly." But I couldn't. I screamed, demanding the truth, throwing every hurt at him. "I trusted you. How could you?" I kept saying, my throat burning. Finally he looked up and said, "Sarah's a co-worker. Something started 9 months ago. But it's not love, Emily. It was a mistake." His words cut like a blade. "A mistake? You told her you missed her. You lied to me every day," I yelled. He tried to explain, said it wasn't serious, that he was confused, but every word drove me deeper into despair. I bolted out of the cottage, barefoot, across scorching sand, to the beach. The ocean roared, drowning my sobs. I dropped to my knees, staring at the waves, replaying our wedding. His vows, his loving gaze. I thought of our first meeting, when he spilled beer on me and laughed like a kid, apologizing. Of dancing in the rain in a park, him whispering I was his home. Was it all a lie? I sat there until the sun set, my heart shattering. The sand cooled under my fingers, but I couldn't move, like time had frozen, trapping me in this hell. I didn't go back to the cottage that night. I checked into a dingy motel in downtown Key West, musty with a creaky bed. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling where an old fan spun lazily. My life, so clear and safe, had crumbled like sand. I tried to figure out what to do next. Divorce? Forgive? But how do you forgive when trust is gone? I thought of my mom, who survived my dad's affair, and told me, "Love's a choice, Emily, but sometimes you gotta choose yourself." How do you choose yourself when you don't know who you are without him? I remembered Jake and me dreaming of a baby, picking names. Liam for a boy, Olivia for a girl. Those dreams felt foreign now, like faded photos from someone else's life. The next day, Jake found me. He knocked on the motel door, his face ashen, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept. "Emily, I need to tell you the truth." "But it's heavy," he said, standing in the doorway. I gave a bitter laugh. "It can't get worse." He stepped inside, sat on the edge of the bed, and started talking. His words hit like a punch. Sarah wasn't just a co-worker. She was his first love. His fiancée. Jake never told me he'd been engaged a year before we met. He and Sarah dated for 3 years, planned a wedding, but split when he moved to Portland for work. She stayed in Chicago, unwilling to leave her marketing career. "I thought it was over," he said, staring at the floor. But last fall, Sarah showed up in Portland, working at their company's branch. They started talking first as friends, then it shifted. "She was sick, Emily. Really sick," he said, his voice breaking. Sarah had leukemia, late stage. Jake felt guilty for their breakup and couldn't abandon her. "I didn't sleep with her. I was helping her. She's dying," he said, tears in his eyes. He showed me their texts, mixed with the "I miss yous," where it talks about hospitals, chemo, her fear of death. Sarah wrote, "I don't want to go knowing you hate me." Jake replied, "I never hated you." But there were confessions, her love, his comforts, that felt too intimate, too close. I stared at the screen, anger mixing with pity. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice hoarse from crying. He looked down. "I was scared you wouldn't get it, and that I'd lose you." His words hung there, heavy as wet sand. I didn't know what to feel. Relief he hadn't physically cheated? Rage at his lies? Pity for Sarah, dying alone? Or pain that my husband hid this huge part of himself? "You made me a stranger, Jake," I said, and he stayed quiet because there was nothing to say. I told him to leave. I needed time. Sitting in that motel, staring at a letter I hadn't opened, I tried to figure out who I was now. Wife? Victim? Or just a woman who'd lost herself? The next day, a letter arrived, real paper in an envelope, delivered to the motel. It was from Sarah. My heart stopped when I saw her name, written in neat cursive. I opened it with shaking hands. She wrote that she knew about me from Jake, that she didn't mean to wreck our marriage. "I loved him, Emily, but he always loved you. Forgive me. And forgive him," her words read. She said she didn't have long, that she wrote this to free Jake from guilt. "He's a good man. Take care of him," she added. The letter was dated a week ago, her handwriting shaky with smudges like tears. I read it over and over, feeling my anger melt into a weird mix of pity and guilt. Sarah wasn't the enemy. She was a woman fighting for life and love, like me. But her letter raised questions. Why write to me? What couldn't she say to Jake out loud? I called Jake, but he didn't pick up. So I found the hospital address in her letter and drove there. The receptionist told me Sarah died 2 days ago. Jake was with her until the end, holding her hand. As she slipped away, I found him in the hospital garden, sitting on a bench. He looked broken, like part of him died too. His eyes were empty, hands trembling. "I didn't want you to see me like this," he whispered. And for the first time in days, I felt not anger, but compassion. But I didn't know how to reach him, how to comfort him. We stood there silent, separated by a wall of pain and lies. At the hospital, I met Sarah's sister, Caitlin. She was younger, with the same green eyes, but her face was worn with grief. Caitlin recognized me from a photo Sarah showed her. "You're Emily, right?" she said, her voice shaky. We sat on a garden bench, and she started talking. Caitlin said Sarah blamed herself for her breakup with Jake. "She loved him till the end, but knew he was yours," she said. Then Caitlin dropped a bomb. Sarah hid something from Jake. She was pregnant when they split. She lost the baby from stress. It broke her. The world crumbled again. Jake could have been a dad. Sarah carried that alone, and her illness might have stemmed from that loss. Caitlin handed me Sarah's diary, which Sarah wanted Jake to have. She wanted him to know but couldn't tell him herself, Caitlin said, wiping tears. I took the book, worn, its cover faded, and felt the weight of her words settle on me. I didn't know if I should read it, give it to Jake, or burn it to spare us more pain. Back at the motel, I couldn't open the diary. Instead, I called my best friend, Laura, who's been with me since high school. Laura listened to my jumbled, tear-soaked story and said, "I'm coming." She flew to Key West the next day, hugged me so tight I finally felt less alone. We sat at a cafe on the waterfront, sipping coffee, and I spilled everything. Sarah, the letter, the diary, the baby Jake never knew about. Laura's eyes were full of empathy. "Emily, you don't have to figure this out now, but you deserve the truth," she said. With her by my side, I opened the diary. Its pages were raw with pain. Sarah wrote about loving Jake, losing their baby, how stress and loneliness shattered her. She blamed herself for their breakup, for not following him to Portland. But there were notes about Jake, how he helped her, drove her to the hospital, sat by her bed when she couldn't move. He talked about Emily with such love. She's his world. I don't want to take that from him, she wrote. I cried, reading those words. Sarah wasn't my enemy. She was a woman who loved and hurt, like me. But the truth about the baby changed everything. Should I tell Jake? It could destroy him. Or set him free. The story didn't end there. A day later, I got another letter from Sarah's mom, Elizabeth. She thanked Jake for being with her daughter in her final months. Sarah told me about you, Emily. She felt guilty for your pain. She wanted you to know Jake only loved you, she wrote. Inside was a photo, Jake and Sarah, young, laughing on a beach, arms around each other, a sunset glowing behind them. On the back, Sarah had written, "I'm sorry, Emily. Be happy." I stared at it, tears burning my eyes. Sarah wasn't just a ghost from the past. She was someone who loved as fiercely as I did. But another twist came. Back in Portland, a week after we got home, I ran into Jake's coworker, Mark, at a cafe, where Laura and I were grabbing lattes. Mark knew Sarah, and hearing my story, got serious. "Jake wasn't totally honest, Emily," he said, lowering his voice. "He didn't just help Sarah. He promised to leave you if she got better. That was before he knew she was terminal." Mark showed me an old text from Jake. "If Sarah lives, I have to be with her. I can't abandon her again." My blood ran cold. Jake didn't just lie. He had a backup plan. He was ready to walk away from me if Sarah survived. I confronted Jake at our old cafe, where we'd once dreamed of forever. I showed him Mark's text. "Were you going to leave me?" I asked, my voice shaking. He went pale but didn't deny it. "I was desperate, Emily. I thought I owed her that. But I never wanted to lose you," he said. His eyes begged me to believe him, but the trust was gone. I looked at the man I loved more than life and saw a stranger. "You chose for both of us," I said, and walked out, leaving him at the table where our story began. But there was one more twist that turned everything upside down. A month after getting back to Portland, I got a call from Sarah's lawyer, Mr. Clark. He said Sarah's will mentioned me. I was floored. We met at his office, and he gave me a box. Inside were letters, photos, and an audio recording. The letters were for Jake, but Sarah asked they go to me if she didn't make it. In one, she wrote, "Emily, I didn't mean to hurt you, but I need to tell the truth. The baby I lost wasn't Jake's. I lied to him to keep him close. I was desperate. Forgive me." I sat in that office, clutching the letter, unable to breathe. Sarah lied about the baby. She manipulated Jake to hold on to him. But why confess to me? I played the recording. Sarah's voice, frail and broken, said, "Emily, I don't deserve forgiveness. I wanted Jake with me, but he always chose you. Don't blame him for my lie. Live happily." The recording cut off, and I broke down, not knowing if I felt relief, anger, or pity. I gave Jake Sarah's diary and letters, but didn't tell him about her lie. I wasn't sure if it would help or destroy him. He read them in one night and showed up at my place, sobbing. "I didn't know, Emily. I didn't know how much I hurt her," he kept saying. I stayed quiet. I didn't know how to comfort him. His pain was real, but mine was too big. I filed for divorce 2 months later. But before that, I drove to Sarah's grave in Chicago, where her family had moved her. I stood by her headstone, holding the photo of her and Jake, laughing on the beach. "I don't know if I've forgiven you, Sarah," I whispered, "but I'm trying." I left the photo there and walked away, feeling the weight in my chest lighten just a bit. It's been 6 months. I'm in therapy, learning to live again. Jake texts, begging for another chance, but I'm not ready. I think of Sarah, her pain, her lie, her love. the baby that never was. Jake, who tried to be good but got lost in his mistakes. This isn't a story about forgiveness or revenge. It's about how love can be stronger than death but weaker than truth, and how one vacation, one phone, one text can break everything. I'm moving forward, but part of me is still on that Key West beach where my world fell apart. I don't know if I'll find myself again, but I'm trying. Every morning I wake up and choose me, even if it hurts. And maybe one day I'll learn to love again. Have you ever had to share your boyfriend or husband with his ex? Share your stories.